Welcome everybody. On behalf of the Cleveland State University Alumni Association, we are so pleased to welcome a alumna and current staff member, Jessica Colombi. She is a native Clevelander. She grew up in Shaker Heights. Now she lives in the city of Cleveland. We were just talking about our east-west sides. Jessica currently serves as the Executive Director of Career Services at Cleveland State. Before moving into the career development space, Jessica was a project manager for the Division of University Engagement at Cleveland State, establishing diversity councils across campus and working as part of a team to secure the prestigious Community Engagement Classification from the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching.
Say that 5 times fast.
I know, like, don't trip over it, Elizabeth. Yes.
Well done.
Thank you. Previous to her time on a college campus, she worked in government and served as chief of staff to the chancellor, I'm gonna trip over this one, of the Ohio Board of Regents, now the Ohio Department of Higher Education. Jessica has completed, you have a lot of trippy ones in here, the Gestalt Institute of Cleveland's training program, though they all sound amazing, working with physical processes, and is a Gestalt professionally certified coach. As such, Jessica is a trained skilled facilitator who, with a business partner, has facilitated racial equity training for corporate executives, nonprofit board members, and K-12 teachers and administrators. Jessica is also part of a small team that has developed cultural competence and de-escalation training for law enforcement that has trained nearly 400 officers in Ohio and Michigan. That's pretty cool. I'd love to hear more about that. Anyway, she has a bachelor's degree in art history from John Carroll University and a master's degree in psychology from Cleveland State with a certificate in diversity management. Jessica and her husband live in Shaker Courts in the city of Cleveland, enjoy marathon viewings of the West Wing, and Jessica's favorite vegetable, and this was my favorite part of your bio, is an artichoke.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's a fun fact.
Yeah.
Fun fact. So Elizabeth, thank you so much.
Yes, so welcome.
Thank you.
Turn it over to you.
Thank you. So I am honored to be asked and thrilled to be here with so many of you today. And I'm going to dive right in. There's a lot of content here. I'm really going to try to even pace myself as I'm taking you through it. There is a Q&A function, and is there a chat function or just the Q&A function I see? So please feel free. I do believe in the concept of death by PowerPoint. So please do feel free to interrupt. I'd like to take you through this, but it doesn't need to be me talking for 40 minutes and then you asking questions. Please pop in anytime with a question you have, and I'm happy to take them. So as the promotion for this session described, knowing thyself is an ancient mantra for a reason. And I really do believe that self-awareness is key to basically everything else. What is most important is that you are comfortable in your own skin. So you're going to hear me talk for the next couple of minutes about presence. What does presence mean? It's different than style. It is how you show up, and it is not manufactured. Everyone has it, regardless of your ability to see it or not see it. And I'm sure you can think of some people who show up and you know they're there, and other people who you might walk right by. Presence requires you to be intentional about how you behave, and you are constantly aware of yourself and of others. And over time, it does become second nature. I'm going to get to the point about practicing. Think about it. What public figures have presence? Do you know what it looks like? So I'm thinking Oprah has tremendous presence. You can think of some others. It takes time and intention to understand yourself. How do I go to the next? There we go. So as we continue to unpack presence, it's about yourself. So it really does take some self-reflection around your values and your beliefs. Is your behavior consistent? Do you walk your talk? Is it evident to others how you believe? How are you in terms of whether you're acting in your belief system? Also, do you take a stand even when it's unpopular? Do you take a position? Can you dare to be different? Or, as I've suggested, even similar? If it's comfortable for you, are you in alignment with yourself and your values? It's also really important to remain curious versus judgmental. And it is about showing interest in yourself that will enable you to have interest in others. And the importance of asking questions to demonstrate your critical thinking. And I will encourage you to stay in the present moment as much as possible. It's actually what I'm trying to do right now. Presence is everything. I do see a couple points in the chat here. Is it possible to send the PowerPoint? Okay, probably eventually, probably afterwards. I'm guessing they'll send it. So presence is everything. This is important. It's important because how you present yourself impacts how others perceive you. How you present yourself impacts how others treat you, which ultimately impacts your ability to generate relationships. It seems simple, and it's not. I mean, the concept is simple, but to actually do it takes a lot of work. Your presence is how you communicate, it's how you exude confidence, and it's a way that you can demonstrate sympathy. Some of the things that are important, my note about bringing paper back, I really think that there is something to actually writing down what we're thinking, and actually research does support the act of writing, because you have to think about what you're writing as you're writing versus typing it all out in a computer. So it's really important. I notice that when I write, I actually slow myself down. But to do some inventory here, what are your interests? And what skill sets do you have? What are your values? Do you value time? Do you value the process, constant process improvement? I know that's something that I value both for myself and for my organization. What are your personal traits? And what is your experience? This is, in terms of communication skills, this is really important. 55% of your body presence and your movements is the communication that you communicate. 38% is your voice, your tone, your pace. 7% are the words that you're hearing me say. And like it or not, the research shows that in about 7 seconds, someone has made a decision about you. That's why it takes practice. It takes a lot of time to really sort through your own self to then be able to show up and communicate it effectively. Again, verbal communication. I know that I've coached a lot of students. One of not my current graduate assistant, my previous graduate assistant, she was concerned because she would answer the phone with a very soft voice. She spoke very quickly. And we talked about her goal for the semester was to improve her pace, her tone, and the volume of her voice, the enunciation of her words, and whether she uses a lot of words or can get to the point. I will own that this is a challenge of mine. I am a loquacious speaker. I have gotten in trouble since 2nd grade for talking. So it's something that I always have to work on and be aware of. Can I answer the question and stop talking? Can I give you my elevator pitch and stop talking? Can you make your point succinctly? So that's part of your communication. And I'll just share with you on the end of the semester with my graduate assistant, what she shared with me was a really important data point, which was, she said, I notice when I talk to people on the phone, I'm not getting asked as many questions as I used to, which to her showed that they could understand her better. They weren't asking her as many questions. And the other point is about nonverbal communication, facial expressions, eye contact. You even notice how much I'm using my hands. That's also something I need to pay attention to, especially in a Zoom setting. You don't want a lot of movement. I mean, I joke that, half of my family's Italian, the other half is Jewish. We're expressive. It's important to just be mindful to use those expressions appropriately and to be mindful of who your audience is and what their values are. Okay, I see a couple things popping up in the chat. Email, emotional intelligence. Yes, absolutely. And there is a question, is this a service Career Services provides? Yes, it is. We actually take very seriously in our coaching appointments how we coach students and alumni. By the way, we provide services to alumni for free. And so you get lifelong access to career services. But we do coach you and talk about how you're showing up. Are you able to answer when they ask you, tell me about yourself? Can you say it in 2 minutes or less? So this is one of my favorite promotional cards of ours back in the before times when we had cards that we would hand out designed by one of our graphic design students. And I do think this goes beyond, the undergraduate student. This counts for graduate students and PhD students, and even my friends in their 40s and 50s with whom I'm working on their job search. So it's really important to nail that first impression, as we were talking about. And again, when you're in person, there are things that I think you need to be mindful of, especially in terms of scent. Did you have a tuna fish sandwich for lunch? Did you remember to floss your teeth after lunch? Did you floss your teeth this morning? Those things are important. But even in this world of Zoom, in terms of your appearance, have you put too much thought into this? Are you overdone? I will say in a world that, gets you to spend a lot of money on makeup and contouring and fake pieces and parts, I will own my bias around encouraging people to be their natural selves. I personally think people are more beautiful when they really are just themselves and not making themselves up to be somebody that they don't look like when they first wake up in the morning. So whatever little accents you would like to add to yourself, you can still be yourself. We're not asking you to be somebody different than you are. But you also want to make sure that people are paying attention to you and what you're saying, and not just, how perfectly your eyebrows are sculpted, or get caught up in how long your fake lashes are, or a statement necklace is great. You don't need a statement necklace and statement earrings and statement watch. So keeping it simple really, I think, is the key to being able to be received. Actually, I'll share with you an anecdote. Yesterday, I participated in the internship summit, which is something that Cleveland State has sponsored with the Greater Cleveland Partnership for the last 6 years. Employers are there, higher education folks are there, recruiters are there, and the keynote speaker was the CEO of, I don't want to mess it up, but he was the CEO, I think, of Lubrizol. I'll have to double check. Eric Schnurr is his name. And he talked about what he learned in the course of an internship, which is it's the communicator's responsibility to communicate. It is not the audience's responsibility to sift through all the details. So whether that audience is 90 of you that are here with me today, or whether it's one person that you're speaking to in the context of an interview, it's your responsibility to communicate effectively. So some of these other points, again, when we're in person, it's really important to remember not using your phone. I mean, I don't have my cell phone here with me as I'm with you. It's really important that you're my priority right now. Your coughs, your sneezes, how to handle those things. You'd be surprised at how many people I would classify as adults don't know how to handle coughs and sneezes, especially now in a pandemic. I think we're hypersensitive to those things. Also, the importance of thank you notes. This is all part of your professional presence and your brand. And as you tell your story, having other people be able to receive who you are. Sure, you can always shoot off a thank you email, but when was the last time you got a handwritten note from someone, and how much did it mean to you? So thank goodness the post office is rolling again. Take advantage, buy a stamp, address an envelope, and send a thank you note. So we're about to watch a video from a friend of mine. His name is Steve Dalton, and he actually works in career services at Fuqua School of Business at Duke in the Triangle in North Carolina. I saw Steve speak at a conference, and I was so taken by the way he presented himself that I decided to stay connected to him. I went up to him after his speech. I asked him if we could stay in touch. We connected on LinkedIn. Sure enough, I had family in the Triangle in North Carolina, and I emailed him to see if we could hook up. And we actually met for coffee. We sat for about 2 hours. And I really love his point here about pitching. And this is also something we do in career services, is we coach you on your elevator pitch. So again, it takes all of that reflection and understanding of yourself and how you show up. And again, how can you pack that into an elevator pitch? Because when someone says, oh, Jessica, nice to meet you. They don't want to hear, 6 minutes worth of my journaling processed out loud. Check out what's in the chat. Okay, presentation requests, terrific.
Hi, I'm Steve Dalton. I'm Program Director for Daytime Career Services with the Career Management Center, and today we're going to talk about pitching. Specifically, we're going to answer three main questions. First, what is pitching and when do you use it? Second, what differentiates a good pitch from a bad pitch? And third, how do you make a good pitch? First, what is a pitch and when do you use it? Well, a pitch is basically an introduction that varies in length depending on the circumstance. It's used constantly. You will be using it when you are meeting with your classmates, when you are meeting with recruiters, and when you are meeting with other professionals that you encounter on your internships and beyond. A common pitch is about 15 to 30 seconds long. The shorter version when you're in larger groups, and the longer version when you're in smaller groups. What makes a good networking pitch? Well, good networking pitches are open. They invite conversation. They deliver multiple connection points to allow the listener multiple ways to connect with you and start to form a relationship. Bad networking pitches are closed. They offer facts and details that are very hard for an outside listener to connect with. So you always want to focus on delivering open pitches that invite the listener in. How do you make a good networking pitch? Well, it helps to answer three questions. What are you doing right now? What are you passionate about? And what are you interested in learning next? For me, I was a strategy consultant before I joined business school, so my pitch might have looked like this. As a strategy consultant, I tackled difficult projects for large corporations. I really enjoyed bringing structure to ambiguous problems, but I look forward to taking that skill set to a home team and getting closer to my consumer. So that's why I'm here to learn more about consumer packaged goods marketing. Now, if you're in a group of about 5 or more people, that 15-second pitch would be appropriate. However, if you're doing smaller group networking, such as office hours or a 1-on-2 or 1-on-3 chat, a 30-second pitch may be more appropriate. To make your 30-second pitch, just tie two 15-second pitches together, one about your previous life and one about your current life. Or perhaps, if you're a first year, it would be one about your college life and one about your post-college career that led you back to Fuqua. So here are your three big takeaways. First, you will be pitching constantly, so treat every pitch as a chance to practice. Second, make sure your pitches are open rather than closed. Open pitches invite conversation, which is what you want at recruiting events. Closed pitches shun conversation. They deliver facts, which are very hard to engage with. And then third, if you don't know where to start, just follow the simple formula we just laid out. It will reduce your anxiety and make your pitches more effective as you develop proficiency.
And I would definitely recommend Steve's book, The 2-Hour Job Search. Let's see here. You may have seen on some of our materials, we take Steve's counseling to heart. And I have heard people, we used to have a laundry list of suggestions in terms of what students might want to include, really getting at the second part of the pitch, but it's so important to keep it simple. What are you doing now? What are you passionate about? And what would you like to do in the future? So think about, and that passionate piece is really important. Differentiating yourself, the way that you differentiate yourself from all the other candidates is the power of your own story, is the confidence to be yourself and express something that is meaningful to you or specific to your experience. And by the way, I've coached a lot of students, again, even my friends, and what are you passionate about? Well, I want to help people. Well, everybody wants to help people. So which kind of people do you want to help? I really enjoy working with children with special needs. I love working with seniors. I'm really involved in, the voting from home movement. What are you passionate about? So really digging in and not being shy to share that piece of information about yourself. It's also really important to include your communicating about your transferable skills. And we refer to these as transferable skills because they transfer major and industry. And so these are the skills, whether you're making a career change or whether you're getting your first job or re-entering the workforce, these are the skills that employers are looking for that are not tied to any major, again, or tied to any field. So these are important skills. Can you manage ambiguity? Are you detail oriented? Have you managed a budget? Have you managed people? Can you work in a team? Can you manage your time? So these are also things that you might include in the third part of your pitch in terms of what you want to do. I love working in teams and I really would like to do meaningful work. What do you bring to bear? We also always coach students around the John F. Kennedy very important inaugural address statement about ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country? Ask not what that job or what the employer can do for you. It's what you can do for them. And now we move into personal brand, which again is another take on self-awareness. It's how you see yourself and how others see you. And that space and that Venn diagram is your personal brand. So what makes up that personal brand? And why is it important? And some of you may know this Oscar Wilde quote, be yourself, because everyone else is already taken. And certainly I've actually been asked within the course of an interview, Jessica, if you had one piece of advice to give a student or another person, what would it be? And it's always be yourself. And that paradox of change, the more that you are yourself is in fact the way that you grow. Your brand helps differentiate you from all of the others. Again, a theme in what I've been sharing with you this afternoon. You can maximize your career potential by maximizing others' impressions of you. And we have tools to do that, including social media. Your brand represents your traits that appeal to the best employers for you, making sure that you're aligned with that employer and their culture. So your online identity. This is so important. Again, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. Career Services, actually, I didn't pitch it earlier, but we have a Pinterest page. You don't have to be on Pinterest to access that page. I think we give great tips for how to present oneself professionally, gender inclusive representation, body shape inclusive representation for, again, how to show up professionally. So that's our Pinterest page, but it's also, in terms of your online identity, how are you presenting yourself on Twitter and Facebook, and even probably Instagram? Think about this little checklist here. Are you offending anyone? Is it appropriate for social media, or would it be better and presented in another way? Are you dumping? Don't forget, social media is forever. So are you okay with someone seeing this forever? And does it make you look or sound unprofessional? Do you have spelling errors? Are you using a row of emojis? Again, we're back to effective communication. And if you're trying to develop a personal brand, is the post too vague? Are you making a point? And are you actually making that point, or are you just blurting it out? Is your post a reaction to something too quickly, or is it well thought out? So almost any kind of pause you can implement for yourself will be important. I think it's really important to mention also specifically LinkedIn, which is another way to make a first impression. I mean, I talked about showing up physically and also with your presence, but LinkedIn, sometimes people will find you on LinkedIn. So what is the impression? What is your banner photo? What is your headshot? How do you use that header to introduce yourself? It should not be a regurgitation of your entire resume online. Absolutely not. What do your recommendations say about you? Who has recommended you? And by the way, it also shows if you have recommended others. So that all speaks to who you are and your presence. And I do see something pop up in the chat. Oh, a question. Let's see here. So I think that the time is always right for a Hamilton quote. And some of you may know this very important lyric from the song Right Hand Man from Hamilton, the musical, when George Washington asks Alexander Hamilton to be his right-hand man. Literally, Hamilton's first words are, "You need all the help you can get. I have some friends." So even within the context of that musical and Alexander Hamilton, he is leveraging his network. It does not mean going to networking events. You are part of a network, and I guarantee you already have one to work. I did see a Q&A here about, I am not a fan of social media, trolling. So here's the thing about social media. It's a little bit like credit. If you don't have it, it's a problem, because people will be wondering where you are and what you're doing. It's like, well, this person might be off the grid. So it is important to curate some semblance of social media. And if you don't want to get involved with Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, I would say LinkedIn so far is the most business-oriented, serious way to utilize social media and to begin to use it to develop your own brand. You can control it. You can control who you relate with, who you relate to. And it is very business oriented. So I do see people, what I think, isn't appropriate for LinkedIn, whether it's, politics, religion, overly personal things. So again, you can even see by your own LinkedIn feed. I mean, my sense has always been that LinkedIn has been for professional networking. So just an important thing to keep in mind. If an employer Googles you and they can't find you, that will raise more questions than it answers. So you do have to have some semblance of a social media presence. Your network. Your informal network, the people who you already have relationships with, is more valuable than any mentoring program I could put you into. Now, that is not to be dismissive of mentoring programs. My husband is a College Now mentor. That's a terrific program. Those kinds of programs are really important. But I also think it's critical not to underestimate who you already have relationships with and how far those can go, the ripple effects. So whether it's your faith-based organization, you know people through that, whether it's any other kind of professional organization that you're connected to, your classmates, your cohort mates. My husband went through the EMBA program here at Cleveland State, and all 16 of them are still connected with one another, and they stay connected and they continue to help each other out. Who are your coworkers, your advisors, your faculty, your career advisor? I know that the staff in career services, we leverage our own networks on behalf of our students and the people that we work with within the context of career services. Is it a friend? Is it a friend's sibling? Is it a friend's parent? Is it your next door neighbor? Oh, my neighbor works at the Cleveland Clinic. Never occurred to me to talk to him. He's actually in communications. I think Cleveland Clinic, I think doctors and nurses. Well, no, they need accountants. They need diversity folks. They need communication folks. Have you ever talked to that person about what it's like to work at that organization? So don't forget who you know. And this pie chart, I think, is a really great prompt to start to think about all the people in your life and who you're connected to. And then I think as part of this, I'm missing a little bit of a slide here, but we talk about a broadcast communication strategy. So how do you reach out to your network? Leveraging your position with your network and getting to know your coworkers or others. It's really important that people are going to want to help you, but you've got to be able to ask for something specific. If you just go to them broadly, introducing yourself, I mean, they're going to say, well, do you want me to get you a job, or you want me to introduce you to someone? I personally think you shouldn't ever ask somebody for a job. Do not lead with the resume. Ask for advice and guidance. Definitely, you can say, I'm in the market, I'm looking, and would you mind sharing resources or any job postings you think would be applicable to me? But again, if you're asking for guidance and advice, and then based on our conversation today, are there 2 or 3 other people you'd be willing to introduce me to? It's really important, and how the network works. Make sure yes. Networking doesn't stop. So getting to know your coworkers, or again, whether you decide to volunteer for Habitat for Humanity or the food bank, learn the names of other folks, what they do, identify those people that you can learn from, collect business cards, or maybe now, without things to touch, it's, hey, can I connect with you on LinkedIn? You stay on the phone, you stay on your device. But it's really important to, as my husband often says, keep your head on a swivel and understand who's around you. I do see a couple things popping up in the chat here. Okay, I've seen in job postings recently that companies are asking for URLs. Is it a semi-requirement these days to have a resume website? I'm over 40. I actually think LinkedIn is appropriate. I don't think you need another website. I think that's the benefit of, unless you're in a creative field, then you certainly want to have some kind of e-portfolio. But I would say that the URL, there are directions on LinkedIn. You can personalize your URL. So my URL isn't linkedin.com gobbledygook. It's actually linkedin.com/, Jessica Colombi. So you can easily Google directions for how do I personalize my LinkedIn URL. We also have that resource available. I'm going to get to that at the end of the presentation, but we have a one-pager on how to set up your LinkedIn profile. So I believe that in terms of asking for URLs, your LinkedIn can really serve as that. Is there a webinar on how to use the LinkedIn platform more effectively? I am so glad you asked. I will be, if you could go to the Career Services website, Cleveland State University, put in the search Career Services, and if you go on the left side of our page, there is calendar of events. If you click on that, I do believe we have a LinkedIn job search bootcamp coming up. All of our events are free. They are all on Zoom. We try to do it at an hour that works for you. We do record all of these sessions and put them on our resources library to find afterwards. So the good news is we do have a LinkedIn workshop coming up, and we do partner with employers on their side of using LinkedIn. So you get a recruiter's perspective. And I guess, as Jordan shares, that alumni hosted one a few months ago. That's awesome. Great. Let's see here. So networking. We are back to that. Oh yes, we'll ask to meet for lunch, maybe once we're all vaccinated, but certainly you can ask to meet for Zoom and have coffee or an afternoon tea over Zoom to connect. I think it is so important to stay organized. So this is a very simple sheet. You can create your own in Excel. We also have this available in our Viking Resources library. So to be very mindful about where you're submitting your resume, who your networking contacts are, who you've interviewed with, any career websites or other websites you want to keep track of. It's also really important that you don't just keep track of that in your phone or try to manage it in your head. There is something to be said, again, for the old paper. I know that I've advised students to have 3-ring binders and paper, and to, again, either keep this in a handwritten record or you can keep an Excel sheet on your computer. But you just want to make sure that when you get a call following up on one of those resume submissions, you're not stuck trying to pull it up in your brain or trying to sit through it on your phone that you're talking to, but that you have a real sense of, and again, research shows having something written down, having something on paper, having something external to you, that record of where you might have applied or who you might have reached out to, really important to keep it all straight. So as we put it all together, the importance of the power of your own story. Again, this is how you will differentiate yourself from all of the other candidates in line. So whether you've taken care of a dying parent, whether you have raised 3 children on your own, whether you have experienced a significant mistake and you have learned from that mistake, how you've grown up, a formative experience, make sure that you are able to work that in appropriately. Again, I just can't tell you the importance of knowing yourself, feeling comfortable in your own skin and your own bones. Also, I would suggest, and it's not in here, but creating a mentor-rich life. So getting that feedback from others is also very important because you can reflect on it. It's again, I don't know how many of you have heard of the Johari Window. I'm like thinking of additional slides for this thing. It is a framework by which we see ourselves. So there's what I know about myself, what you know about me, what you know about me that I might not know about myself, and then the empty window, what I don't know about myself and what you don't know about me. And that's the blind spot. So to really shed some light on that blind spot, you need somebody else to be able to give you feedback and being open to that feedback. We've got another question. How can I reach out to career services, actually speak with someone? I need to update my resume to reflect my skills. Yes. So careers@csuohio.edu. Jordan or Elizabeth, if you could throw that in the chat, that would be great. careers@csuohio.edu is our general email address. It is answered all day, every day, including Sundays, but not Saturdays. If you could share with us what you're looking for from an appointment and attach the most recent copy of your resume, just so we don't have to start with a blank page. What the reason that you'd like an appointment, we are happy to meet with you. We are open every day, Monday through Friday. And certainly we will work with you to find a mutually agreeable time to connect and to start to work through some of those questions. And how do you spell the window concept? Oh, I'll actually put it in here. Google that, Johari Window. It's one of my favorite frameworks. So I cannot overstate the importance of reflection, the importance of journaling, the importance of getting away from these screens, taking a walk, reflecting again, and it never ends. Keeping your energy up. So are you taking care of yourself? Are you drinking enough water? Are you getting enough sleep? What are you eating? Listen, I like my share of Mama Santa's pizza and, salads are important, a good piece of fruit, vitamin C. It's really important to keep your energy up, get plenty of sleep, take care of yourself, eating a good breakfast. I just have a couple of notes here in terms of being the last one to leave. Again, if we're ever together in person, the importance of being the first one to show up, or maybe sometimes the last one to leave. It's a way for you to connect. I was lamenting with Jordan and Elizabeth before we started here. I facilitated a roundtable discussion yesterday at the Internship Summit, had a room full of people, and when time was up, we all waved and clicked end meeting, and I was sitting in my home office by myself, and just how unsatisfying that was for me, again, as a classic extrovert and a humanities person. I miss being with other people. And so there are ways we found to do it in this environment, right? Please manage your phone time and also mind your use of social media. Now, this particular hint is connected to some presentations we do for students in terms of their use of social media throughout the day. Be mindful of when you use your social media. And again, know that it's a bit of a necessary tool now. Humility is important, right sizing, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't feel confident in your accomplishments. In fact, you should feel confident in your accomplishments and be able to speak about that with air in your lungs and being able to make eye contact. It's not attractive for someone to be sitting in front of you wringing their hands. So be sure that you're clear about your accomplishments. Ask questions. Be curious about the world around you. In fact, I also heard that tip from the Cleveland Foundation. We were hosting a panel on careers in nonprofit, and the vice president of human resources for the Cleveland Foundation said, we go right to the bottom of a candidate's resume and we look at their volunteer experience and their civic engagement. Do they care about the world around them? Are they involved in a cause that's meaningful to them? So it's really important that you stay involved, that you're committed, and the importance of networking. All of that connects to the power of your own story and your ability to use your story to really impact your future. So that is mostly it. I am happy to take any questions. And I also wanted to share with you, this is our resources library. I will also put this in the chat, vikingresources.org. Right? Can remind students and participants that we never outgrow the usefulness of career services. They helped me find a new job as a 50-year-old professional. As a CSU alum, career services is available to you for life. Now, I did not plant Julia in the audience. Thank you so much. How can we get a recording? Jordan will be able to let you know about that. Thank you, Julia. I will say again, yes, we are available to CSU alumni for life, and thrilled to be able to offer service to my fellow alums. And as you can see here, this is just the front page of the website. We have a ton of resources. It's not always, I'll be honest, it's not always the easiest to navigate because we've just been focused on getting the content up there, but you see the little search bar here. The buttons are easy to navigate. And Desiree, I'm glad you thought that this was great. I'm happy to take any other questions. I see some things in the chat. You're welcome. You're welcome. Did not see the resource link. vikingresources.org. There you go. And again, I'm continuing to hang out for a little while and answer any other questions you may have. And thank you so much for joining me. And again, be yourself.
As you are asking your questions, if you have any, I'll give you a little time to do that. For everyone asking For a copy of the presentation and a follow-up email, you'll get a link to download that as well as a link to view this again. So you can digest it a little more. I know it was a lot of information, but you can review it and let it sink in and learn all of the nuggets. Also, we'll include a couple of our past webinars that featured similar information like LinkedIn. Someone asked about that. We also had a resume workshop as well. So we'll share that too. And then you can connect with career services to bring it all home.
Best way to handle a negative employment experience. Can we share this with others? So the answer, again in the Q&A, can we share this with others? Yes. And what is the best way to handle a negative employment experience? So think about how you might want to hear about a negative employment experience from someone else. You don't want to hear the dirty laundry. You don't want to hear it go on. Again, if you're asked and you had to leave it, I mean, it's so important to be honest. And I think it's important to tell the truth, but you don't have to tell the whole truth. So again, I would encourage you to come to Career Services. We're happy to help coach you through that negative experience. I also think it's really important to take time to mourn if it really has impacted you. And again, another opportunity to reflect and journal and be clear about what is your stuff about that situation so you don't take it out on someone else, and especially within the context of an interview. So right sizing that bad situation. And again, we can help you do that. What advice do you have for mentors for CSU students? What should we be doing that will best help them out? Listen. I listen for what's underneath, and also share your own story. I mean, isn't it interesting? It always comes back to this. I know that I have learned when I listen to my mentor and she tells me her stories, so listen to them, share your own story, and know that you too can log into this Viking Resources website with your mentee and share tools and resources. And ask them, what can I do to be what would be helpful for you, and get some direction from them, maybe to be so specific. The reference to the artichoke, it's just my favorite vegetable. It's just a little quirky thing. I mean, I think, we can only be so professional, and then it's like, you want a little bit of interesting information. And so same thing, if you go to the Career Services website and you go to the Contact Us page and you see our pictures, not only do we have our usual, make, model, and serial number, but we also have a fun fact about each of us, because again, I think that lends itself to this whole presentation about the power of your story. What's a little bit of something interesting about you? I mean, an artichoke it's just kind of an unusual thing. I bet you're going to remember it, huh? You remembered it 45 minutes later.
Jessica, you'll have to share with me how you eat an artichoke. I have tried many times and I fail every time.
Oh, yeah, it is a process. I remember the first time my husband watched me eat an artichoke, he's like, "Are you performing surgery? Like, what's happening here?" So I definitely have to be steamed and pull a leaf at a time. I like mine with lemon butter. Some people have theirs with Italian dressing, with mayo. I guess the sky is the limit. I feel like being myself is too much. Boy, do I know that feeling. And I don't know if it's gendered, but I do hear a lot of my friends who happen to be females saying, "I'm afraid I am too much. I am afraid I take up too much space." That's what I mean by practice. It takes practice to be clear about when it's too much. And so I would really advise you, Veronica, I do not think that you are too much. I am sure you are not too much. I'm sure it's just a matter of practicing. And oftentimes our strengths can become our most vulnerable challenges. Again, I am a terrific communicator. I'm a great talker. Well, that becomes a weakness when I talk too much, right? So being mindful of our good qualities, done to an extreme, can become not so good anymore. Pride is another example. It's important to feel confident and proud of yourself. Done to an extreme, it's like too much. So just a little coaching and practice and feedback, and you'll be in great shape. Speak a little bit about the imposter syndrome. Yes, because I have it. It is definitely, that does tend to show up in women. which does not mean it is limited to women or any gender, but it does tend to show up in women. And that is really, I think I'm a fraud, and wait until they find out that I'm a fraud. And it shows up actually in people who are pretty smart and pretty high functioning. And it's really important, again, to work that out with someone. We're back to mentor rich life. We're back to using career services. It usually is something that it's just so important to remember that you have the power of choice, that I would not assume things to be true. I would slow down, do some journaling, and check yourself and remember that you have the power of choice. You have the power to believe that voice in your head. You have the power not to. You have the power to believe that criticism from a supervisor. You have the power to choose not to. So I would like to remind you about that, the power of choice. Are there any rules of thumb about how long you should stay in a job? I heard 5+ years, but is there a certain amount of time where you'd be less employable to a new hiring manager? No. To me, what's always concerning is a gap. Actually, it's the opposite in work experience. So I would, I don't think there's any length of time, especially not in this job environment. I think you've just got to have integrity and work a job until it's not aligned with your values anymore. And then it's time to do a job search. It's not great to stay in a place just to make a certain arbitrary year mark. Other than the 2-hour job search book referenced in the video, do you have any suggestions for other books or resources on this topic? Again, I would encourage you to go to vikingresources.org. There's a ton of stuff in there. And yes, look up Steve Dalton on YouTube, and his book, 2-hour job search, is terrific. Our associate director, Amy Goldman, has another book about, like dump your resume and change your life or something like that. So I'll be sure to find it and get it to Jordan so he can share that with you. Positive affirmations to improve self-talk. Absolutely. I mean, to me, it's just a daily practice of those kinds of affirmations. I am revisiting meditation myself, and it's really important, again, to slow down and to just pick a word or pick a theme and sit with it. And that also, I think, is the importance of a mentor-rich life and getting feedback from others so that they can say, I think you're a star. I think that you're a terrific listener. If I feel good when I'm in your presence because I love your laugh and you're so easy to laugh. That's why this relational stuff is really important. Email your resume, but with a cover note. I mean, in the email, when you send your resume, we want to know why you want to talk to us. Again, it helps us not just, start from scratch with you. It's careers@csuohio.edu. Careers, CAREERS, @csuohio.edu. Thank you.
Jordan and I are eager to get you that information. We're both dropping it in the chat for you.
Awesome.
But yeah, there's a lot of awesome resources on Viking resources.
Yes.
I think I found this boot camp that you're talking about under the
LinkedIn.
Yeah, or it looks like a job search boot camp, and then there is a LinkedIn one.
Yes.
Is that the one you
So
were?
that was from last semester, and we did it with Union Home Mortgage, and it's amazing. It's terrific. And that was from we try to do one each semester. So we have the one from last semester with Union Home Mortgage, and I believe the one that we're doing this semester is with the sewer district. Patrick Gibbony is awesome on LinkedIn. So really excited about that.
Okay, here, I'll drop an extra link in for the events coming up,
Great.
for you guys, if that helps anybody. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of, I mean, I'm like, my head is swirling now. Like, what is my elevator pitch? Is it too long? Do I say like too often?
Yes.
All of those type of things are just percolating in my brain now. So that was, I know I enjoyed it, and it seems like we have a lot of people in the chat mentioning how much they've enjoyed this as well.
Just terrific. That's something I felt really strongly about as we devised this Viking resources. I'm like, they're out there. I want to make sure that we're in the game. as our students and alumni are looking for these resources and these tools and these strategies, I want to make sure that we make it as available as possible. So this site is available 24/7. And yeah, do yourself a favor or not. I mean, well, yes, it really is a favor. Record yourself and then watch yourself. It's pretty, it's a great learning opportunity.
Ooh, brutal,
Even
right?
just, yeah, it is. Even just last week, I watched myself. We hosted a career conversation on diversity and inclusion, and I watched everyone, but including myself, and I'm like, oh, too much hands, too much ums. So there's always work to do.
For sure, yes. And this environment has made me very aware of how I sound and look on camera. So I'm with you on that one for sure.
And it is hard. Like I want to keep looking over at you, here, but I know I should be
also looking at myself.
Yeah. It looks like I'm looking at you,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like I'm looking at you at all. It's very strange.
It is. It makes for kind of an interesting environment. But yeah, and I love that the resources are available to alumni, and we are committed to promoting that more in the future as well, because not all colleges do that. I'm here to say that my alma mater does not. I won't name names, but that's a really good resource.
As you say that, I can't believe I didn't CSU. We are on social media. So for those of you who are still hanging out with us, I think I just threw it on the chat. We are on Twitter. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We're CSU_careers. I am at the job lady at CSU. That's me on Twitter. You're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. That's actually something I didn't mention earlier. You're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. A personalized note is really helpful when sending an invite to someone on LinkedIn. Don't just send an invite. Give me some context for who you are and why you might want to stay in touch. Those generic invites, I mean, how do I know you're not somebody off the street or a bot of some kind? What's in it for me to connect with you? So make sure you personalize your invitations on LinkedIn. And follow us on social media. We don't just blurb about our events. We really have tried to position ourselves, again, as a resource for helpful information. So we share testimonials, we share articles, we share, how to make the best of our events, which are also open to students and alumni all the time for free.
Well, this has been really wonderful. And I think unless we have any more questions, we can give you all back about 5 minutes of your day here.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. This is a real
thank you so much for being here. This was really,
such a treat.
Really enlightening, and I hope everyone is walking away with a lot of great resources and ways to connect and someone to reach out to if they need that extra bit of help. So thank you again for coming. We love being able to bring some, just somebody who's got everything, the staff member and alumna and, all of that together to everyone. We will get this recording and the slide deck to all of you. If you were registered, we already have your email, so we will get that out to you this week.
Awesome. I did see one more Q&A. Oh, just a thank you. You're welcome.
Oh, yep.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Really, a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.